In three, two, one. Hey everybody, Will Gully here with the Recruiting Lounge. I wanted to take a little bit and talk to you about the USC UCLA leaving the Pac-12 and going to the Big Ten conference and what that might mean for parents and prospective student athletes that were considering going to UCLA or USC, and those schools, those parents and student athletes of students in the Midwest and the East Coast that were considering, that are now considering what it would look like to play against USC and UCLA on a regular basis. First thing I'll say is, USC and UCLA both were in different financial positions. So just contextually, right? The Los Angeles Times had an article out that basically said for the past 3 years, UCLA has been running a $40 million plus deficit. So you do the math, you're over $100 million in debt over the last 3 years. And a lot of that has to do with COVID. A lot of it has to do with COVID, really. Because of COVID, games weren't played, TV money was down, and no butts in seats were there. And UCLA is set up where their athletic department actually pays, not actually, the athletic department pays for the tuition of its students that are there. So in-state, out-of-state, the UCLA pays it out of their budget. And so they still had all these students coming in, not to mention those that are coming back for their super senior years, so that they're paying money on. Not to mention the facilities that they are renting, Rose Bowl, Poly Pavilion. Those facilities are owned by the campus. They've got debt service on some of the new facilities. So all that to say, they needed cash flow. They needed cash. And the Big Ten is able to offer, potentially 3x. That's what the reports are saying, a 3x in terms of television revenue than the Pac-12 at this time. So that's one for UCLA. USC, they're a private school, so their financials aren't readily available. I'm sure the Los Angeles Times tried to do something with them as well. What we do know is that they had a new football coach. And not only that, we know that they're paying previous football coaches' salaries. So you can imagine they're both in LA, both similarly impacted by COVID in terms of fans and butts and seats. Now you've got one school with a brand new football coach, and they're still paying the salaries off of the previous set of coaches. So you add all that up, and they need the cash. So that's contextually. On the network side of things, Big Fox is really, they're in Los Angeles. Their offices are right there in the city, really close to both campuses. And so for them to have a footprint in Los Angeles and not have the stronger relationship with those two schools is probably something that they were thinking a lot long and hard about. Not to mention the Los Angeles media market and what it might bring to the table. So Fox comes in, they say, hey, we're really interested in the LA media market. The Big Ten, they have a relationship with Fox already. And so, kind of the collection together brings the story into a little bit clearer picture. So that's just context on the deal and how that works. Now, going to the recruiting aspect of this thing, there are two things that I've always talked about when considering schools and I say this to parents and student athletes alike. And really, I got this from, believe it or not, I got it from LeVar Ball. I was at UCLA when Lonzo was coming, and I remember having a chance to sit down with Lonzo, and I like and LeVar, and I know LeVar kind of gets a certain persona because of how he interacts with people on the media and whatnot. But I can tell you from my perspective, he is awesome. I've always had great conversations with him, and he's been, every time I've met him off camera, it is, hey, how are you doing? How's your family? So on and so forth. So that's LeVar. But when I talked with him, one of the things that he said to me, he's like, hey, if I'm a West Coast kid and my family's on the West Coast and I want to play in front of my family, and I know I don't like the cold weather, I know I don't want anything to do with the snow, why would I consider going to the East Coast? Doesn't make any sense. So that's what one thing that LeVar said to me. The other thing I'll say is, if you're a prospective student athlete and you are you play baseball or softball or something like that, think about the amount of travel and wear and tear on your body that you're potentially going to have when you're going from one location to another, to when you're going from being at home to away, and what that might do to your body and how that impacts it on a regular basis. So those are the two things that I say from a context standpoint. On one hand, you've got the schools and the networks. On the other hand, you've got prospective student athletes and their parents. Now, for recruits, what are some of the things that you now need to consider if you were considering going to UCLA, USC? You need to consider what type of travel accommodations are there going to be. So again, if you're a soccer player and you're thinking about, hey, I'm going to travel out to Indiana and play UCLA, Indiana, really big soccer programs. I'm going to travel 2 time zones to play Indiana. What does that look like? Where is the advantage there? How am I going to succeed that way? Okay. Vice versa, Indiana, now you're going to go out to LA. You're changing 2 time zones. So you're going to think about what that might look like for you as a student athlete and how that might impact your body and how it might impact your play. So that's one thing. 2, what you can say is, as a recruit, how does this impact my name across the United States? UCLA West Coast, the West Coast bias, as it were, is a real thing. How often are people on the East Coast staying up to watch Pac-12 contests? It's a reality. Years ago, the Pac-12 negotiated to have a 4th TV window for football season. 4 windows as opposed to 3. Just because they wanted to give them more an opportunity to play in front of an East Coast audience. Now, UCLA, USC student athlete that wants to be seen on a national landscape, you're going to have that opportunity on a regular basis. So just like we know of some of these quote unquote name brand football players in the Midwest and on the East Coast, UCLA, USC, you're going to be participating in those contests for football, men's basketball, and that's a big deal. Okay? So you can't undervalue that, especially if you perform and you perform well. Third thing, look at the CFP and the national landscape in terms of college football playoff. Think about how this is going to impact that if you're a football player. Pac-12, the last school in the Pac-12 to get into the CFP is University of Washington, and it's been hit or miss since then. You get out to the Big Ten. Big Ten's since the CFP has started, they've always had a representative. Ohio State, Michigan, they got in most recently last year. So you're going to have an opportunity to compete on a national scale. Reporters and writers are going to be able to see you. So that's not to be undervalued either. Another thing that I think about if I was a potential student athlete or a parent of a student athlete is, hey, you're at UCLA and now you're going to be traveling out East Coast. I was hoping to see you play a lot more. And it's a lot harder now for me to fly from previously what was going to be Los Angeles to Seattle, or Los Angeles to the Bay Area, or Los Angeles to Arizona. We're talking hour flights at $100 to $200 round trip. Now I've got to consider, hey, what does it look like for me to fly from Los Angeles to Chicago? What does it look like for me to fly from Los Angeles to Rutgers, to New Jersey? What does it look like to fly from LA to Ann Arbor? Those are big flights and big commitments. Not something that you can just wake up on a Friday afternoon and say, hey, I'm going to buy a ticket and hop on a plane and get out there. You've got to plan a little bit more. And so you've got to consider those things as a parent too. Like how much do you want to be with your son or daughter when they're competing? And that's something that you got to consider. If I'm a softball player, UCLA softball, top notch, right? If I'm a baseball player, USC baseball, down this year, but USC baseball has a history of really good baseball. What does it look like now for me to travel East Coast and play in a 3-game series in March in the Midwest when the weather could be snow? I mean, it's regularly snowing in Kansas City and Michigan in March. So what does that look like? You've got to take those things into consideration too. Not to mention, most of those baseball and softballs are usually playing 4 games a week. You play a midweek game, then you fly out, and you hop on a plane and go somewhere else, or you stay at home. So consider this: you could be at home playing on a Tuesday. This is during the school year, by the way. At home playing on a Tuesday. Wednesday, you're in class, rest of your body. Thursday, you're in class, you're on a plane. You're on a plane Thursday, not Friday morning, you're on a plane Thursday. Thursday, you fly out. Game Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Hop on a plane Sunday night. Get back home at midnight or later. Monday, you're recovering. Tuesday, you've got another game. How often are you going to be in the books? So again, you got to consider now, hey, what are the realities around my education? Am I going to be able to pursue my desire for, pre-med, or can I get into something? Does the communication school allow me to do these things? What does that look like in terms of me being in class on a regular basis? Those are things that you now have to consider. Now, what I would say is, I think the kind of the top notch, if you will, the best thing going for student athletes now in these situations is the potential enhancement in services afforded to you just because of the greater revenue. The LA market is going to bring greater revenue to the schools that are already in the Big Ten. And the Big Ten TV deal is going to give more financial resources to USC and UCLA, at least for a short term. It's going to do. So with those extra resources, the question, if I'm a prospective student, if I'm a parent, the question that you ask is, what are you going to do with the additional resources to help support me in my educational pursuits and my athletic pursuits? And I would be really intentional and specific with that question and make sure that they gave you an answer. That's what that's the most important piece of this puzzle. Everyone says that in the industry, everyone is saying that you're here to support student athletes' success academically in the classroom and athletically on the playing field or on the playing court. So now with the increased revenue, increased investment, increased dollars, how are you going to support me, soccer player, me, track and field player, me, volleyball player, me, tennis player? How are you going to support me? Football, men's, women's basketball, they're going to get supported. There's such an arms race in this space. They're going to get supported. The question is, the Olympic sports, how is this money going to be a benefit to our athletic and academic success? And I'd want them to have a very strategic plan with it. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to discuss this and other things in greater detail. Hopefully what I've said helps you in your process. And as always, may your days be filled with grace, mercy, joy, and love. Bye now.